author of entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. He's back. Good morning, Andrew Loney. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thanks. Nice to be back.
It's been 3 days. I get these moments where I think, where's Loney been? What would he say? I'm just moved by a few stories this morning. I don't know how much more Andrew Mountbatten Windsor can take, but Exile Man had a rare visitor to his temporary home at Sandringham at the weekend, the King's domestic chaplain. The headline is Confess Any Sins. The ex-Duke sees the Sandringham priest a few hours before the King. What's he confessing his sins, Andrew, do you think, or looking for divine inspiration of how to get out of the hole he made?
Well, who knows? I mean, he may be finding religion now. I think it's just they've taken pity on him. I mean, no one else is visiting him, so I suppose the local vicar should.
Do you think that... genuinely, I like your point, because we read about Fergie. She's in some wellness clinic talking about mental illness and everybody's out to get me. You've got to paint the picture of this guy sat on his own in Sandringham, and I'm going to ask the question that everybody will probably get upset about, and you can dump it if you want. I suspect there are many people who are feeling he's so ostracised he can't even go horse riding. Are they worried about his mental health and what he might do to himself?
Well, that's been a message from the palace for a long time, even when my book came out in August, that he was on suicide watch. I mean, everything I'm told from people close to him until very recently was that he still hasn't really sort of understood the seriousness of what he did and his position. He's more concerned about where he's going to park his car than he is about the problems he's in. So I don't really see that at all, but it may be trying to send out a narrative that this man has repented, and we'll see him washing up dishes in the local all folks home.
I love what some people will call your cynicism, because I'm totally with you, Andrew. I am all for, and I've said it for many, many years, the fact that we now in this country talk about mental health is great, but let's fully accept that there are people who now use that as a tactic. He is a manipulative, arrogant bully. OK, that is a known fact, right? His ex-wife will do anything for a few quid. It would be terrible. You know, if that happens, then yes, of course, people are going to jump up and down. But, you know, you should be you should be saying sorry. You should be... I mean, we read stories about him every day, still demanding a chef and a valet and being called sir. I wonder whether he's got any possible idea of what he's done. I doubt it. That's the impression I get. I could be wrong.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think Fergie's is exactly the same. I mean, she's railing at people, thinking that she's been hard done by, and she will come and flutter her eyelids on some chat show and, as I say her mother abandoned her, and this explains everything. But these are just two immoral people who've been caught and are finding new ways of getting around the problems they're in now.
Some news at the weekend as well, and I think this is fascinating. You were the first person to turn the spotlight on the daughters, Eugenie and Beatrice. Everybody initially, I think, was talking about how difficult it must be. I acknowledge that, and how the King was quite wanted to be seen to be protecting them, that they are not their father. But you touched upon several examples of how they were implicated by this, both in terms of travel and in terms of money. Over the weekend, they've been banned from Royal Ascot. Now, to a lot of people, that might mean nothing, but that is a massive snub, isn't it, Andrew?
Yes, and I mean, the fact it's been so public and it's been so early. I mean, either the King has had some information about the daughters, and therefore he's realizing he does need to distance himself. I think William wanted an audit of their business activities, and they refused to do that. Or it may be just precautionary, but it seems the fact that it's so public, I think suggests that they are aware of information that may come to light. I mean, there are 300 mentions of the woman in the Epstein files that have been released, and I've certainly got a lot of material, much of which I didn't use in the book because I was told to lay off the daughters. So, yes, they're said to be anxious about my paperback, and they have good reason to.
Well, give me something there, help me out. You were warned not to. Why? Because of their mental health?
I think the feeling, a year ago when I was delivering the book was that we should focus on Andrew and Sarah, and the girls were collateral damage. But I think it's become clear that it's very much part of the same business model. The two daughters, I mean, they've just been taken on the baton, and they're just carrying on with the contacts the parents made, particularly in the Middle East. And I think this is the concern, that they're using their royal titles to make money for themselves in terms of their own businesses.
What's striking right now isn't just the headlines, it's the tone coming out of royal circles. The mood around Prince Andrew, Duke of York, has shifted from defiance to deep concern. When institutions as tightly controlled as the monarchy begin altering routines and allowing pastoral intervention, it signals that something behind closed doors is no longer manageable through silence alone. This is no longer about reputation management. It's about containment, emotional, psychological, and institutional. A religious visit in moments like this isn't ceremonial. It's strategic. Clergy are typically called when legal teams, family members, and palace aides recognize emotional strain reaching a critical threshold. Spiritual counsel becomes the last neutral ground outside law, outside media, outside protocol. And that raises a chilling question. What conversations are happening that the public is never meant to hear? For someone once surrounded by power, access, and status, isolation hits harder than any public statement. Titles fade, invitations vanish, and even family dynamics quietly realign. What remains is silence, and for a figure shaped by privilege, that silence can be destabilizing. The royal system was designed to protect the crown, not the individual. When someone becomes a liability, emotional fallout becomes collateral damage. Public scrutiny isn't just loud, it's relentless. Every past decision is reinterpreted.
I always go by a good mate of mine, Rob, and other people who watch and listen to the show. And I remember the first day I had you on, I was saying, oh, come on. You know, they were taken to Jeffrey Epstein's house when they were 8 and 6, and you jumped in and went, no, Jez, they were 20 and 22. And there is certainly the belief that there is more to this. But the problem is, if he's had information, the king, and has banned them from royal ascot, that is going to turn the spotlight back on him. And the accusation that is being levelled at him, which has led you and I to say he might well have to abdicate or even talk to the police. How much does he know about the past that he's kept quiet, Andrew?
Well, I think he knows an awful lot, as do other members of the royal family. I was talking over the weekend to a long-time source and very close to the royal family, and they were discussing it with another member of the royal family 20 years ago, the problem of Andrew and some of the things he was up to. So I do think this is going to be tricky for them, because they are going to have to come clean at some point about what they knew and why they didn't do anything.
And that's the point. How much did they know and how much are they prepared to give away? I'm completely with you about how transparency is going to take over. Can I just touch upon William very briefly? I read a couple of articles, one by Amanda Platell in the Daily Mail at the weekend, saying that, you know, he is, if you like, the clean slate. The king should probably go and, as we said, cite the illness and he should take over. She was implying that William is quite critical and implying that, you know, he needs to step up. Yes, he's got his life with his family. He's been through the trauma of his wife having cancer, and nobody can put any, you know, time scale on that. But his father still does 500 engagements a year. He does less than 150. And she was sort of questioning whether he had not the stomach for it, but whether this desire to make it, we basically need to kick up the backside. Where do you stand on that? I thought it was quite an interesting article.
Yes, well, I think the feeling is, you know, that he's not quite ready to step up. I think the line now is that Charles is a bit like Keir Starmer. He's going to be the punch bag who absorbs all the scandals, and then someone can come in with the clean slate later.
That's an interesting analogy. Give it a bit of time, let all the stuff fall on Charles, and then he steps aside out of duty and out of the rightness for the crown, right?
Yes, he's the lightning conductor, and in fact, you know, his illness may overcome that. So I think that's possibly it. But I think one of the reasons that William's spending a lot of time with his family is he knows that, you know, he may not be able to do that later on. But I think the feeling is he isn't ready for it, both mentally and in terms of the preparations, and therefore Charles has got to keep going a little bit longer. I think what really worried me was the now putting out the line that this investigation will take a year. The circumstances of Andrew's appointment were so vague that I don't think he could be tried as a public servant. And I think this may be the way that Andrew avoids facing justice, that in the end, legal technicalities prevent him from being charged. And I think also a fascinating thing that the Americans were trying to get cooperation from the British years ago under the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, and the British weren't playing ball with them. Now the British are trying to get material from the Americans, and they won't play ball this time. All rather childish. But
I'd love to talk for another hour. I have to move on, but I will say I don't think this is going away, Andrew, and because of you primarily, I think questions will continue.
Every expression scrutinized, every silence weaponized. Unlike legal consequences, public judgment has no end date. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Even those who believe accountability is necessary are now questioning whether the pressure has crossed into something far more dangerous.